Well, hello. Wonder where I am today. You never know. Actually, I'm in New York City. I'm in Central Park. This is not what you normally think about with New York City, but it is definitely with Central Park. Earlier this week, I spent one entire day working with the business coach organization that I work with, and along with many of their other clients, we spent an entire day doing what we call the intuitive business planning day, where we worked in a really unique way to plan out the next 4 months for all of our businesses. And it was a first time I'd ever done one of these. It was incredibly powerful. I mean, just for the sheer fact that we turned off email, we didn't text, we didn't check social media, really dedicated an actual full day to business planning. And it was really incredibly powerful. It was this sense of, taking almost deep breaths. Well, literally, we were taking deep breaths, but I mean mental deep breaths, to get some distance, to find some space from the day-to-day of our businesses. And, it was powerful. It really helped in so many ways to not connect the dots, but almost see all the pieces of the planning that I've been doing for 2022 and put them together almost more like puzzle pieces. So instead of dots, it's really outlining the frame of the puzzle and some of the critical elements of a puzzle so that we know where the rest of the pieces go. And it's been running through my mind the last couple days since then about, where do you find those other puzzle pieces and how do you put them in place and how do you put them in place in the right way? So this morning I traveled from Philadelphia to New York. I was a speaker at a conference again. Yay, another live in-person conference. And when I come up to New York, I usually take Amtrak. I typically always sit on the right side of the train. I like to make sure I'm in the seat where I'm facing forward. I don't like riding backwards. So it's really particular where I tend to sit. But I usually sit on the right side, and mostly that's because I like to, see the city when we get closer to New York. It's about an hour and 25 minute ride, but by the time we get closer to New York, I'd like to see the buildings and the outline. It's just fun. For some reason today, I just went to the other side. I went to the left side of the train. And I was just not really thinking about it. I just sat over there. But what was really intriguing to me is, as we rode along, how much the change of scenery impacted me by simply choosing a new seat. So the things that I normally would see, I wasn't seeing them. I was seeing brand new things in a lot of cases. And frankly, as I thought about it, most of the time when I sit on that right side, I might be doing some work, or I might be reading a book or playing a game, typically until the time we see New York. And then I like to look out the window at the buildings. But this time, being in a different area, a different spot, I was not interested in reading my book or doing any other work. I knew I was all set for the program. So I began to just look differently. And there were a couple things that really jumped out at me. One point in time, we went by, over a little bridge where there was a river, probably normally about, 20 feet across, not a huge river. And it was almost all dried up and really muddy. And I could see where people had rowboats that were, normally like right outside their house in the river or next to the river, and they were beached basically on the mud. It just was odd and kind of shocking and just different. I saw a big building that was, probably an industrial warehouse at some point in time, huge, that had a fire. I mean, I don't think it had been used for decades, but there had been a fire. You could clearly see that the fire had, kind of destroyed the inside of this, and they were now demolishing it and carting it off brick by brick. I would not have seen that, obviously, if I was on the other side. Closer, right outside of Newark, New Jersey, I was shocked by all these buildings, mixed use. So they were lots of apartments on the top floors and the bottom floors, where stores, restaurants, and things are going to go in. They're not done yet. They're not completed. Probably 5 or 6 buildings, kind of sandwiched between the train tracks and the freeway. And you could just see that there's going to be a brand new neighborhood right there soon, probably the next time I come by. And it was interesting to look with new eyes at new sights and have a little bit more space. You know, I was thinking about the fact that I was beginning to see wider, bigger, expand my view. And I think a lot of that happened from the planning day that we did earlier this week, where it's really a sense of taking those deep breaths, literally and figuratively, to give yourself headspace. And you know I talk about headspace a lot. It's important. And especially when you're facing a new challenge or a new task or a new opportunity, or frankly just, anything on a day-to-day basis sometimes, when there's something that seems maybe not even insurmountable, but seems really big, daunting, a little nerve-wracking, exciting even, that sometimes our vision can become so myopic that we can't figure out the solutions to simple problems. But not only finding that space to breathe and get some distance, but sometimes getting up and actually looking at it from a completely different vantage point. I didn't intend for the ride in the train to be, allegorical to, new awareness, but it was just so perfectly aligned with the fact that when we can actually physically move ourselves around an issue, move ourselves from a different direction, we will see different things because we're physically standing in a different spot. So when I was done with the conference, well, it's still going on, and a lot of times I'll stay around and network with people, and I did for a little bit afterward, but I decided I wanted to walk through New York City. Now, I love New York. I absolutely love New York. Every time I get here and I, come up from the depths of the subway and the train station, it just hits me. It's loud, it's chaotic, it's fast, it's often gritty. It's there's pieces of it that can be really overwhelming to people. I just absolutely love it. But I wanted to look at things differently, so I walked slowly, and I walked on streets I haven't walked on. I mean, it's New York. There's plenty of streets I haven't walked on. But in this area that I'm in, I've been here a lot. And I decided to walk on different streets and stop and look at some windows and look at people more closely and watch the people who are dining. And then I came into Central Park, which is a little more quiet, and it is a little slower, and it's a little more peaceful, but it's still so alive and different. In fact, where I was sitting when I was making my notes, I kept hearing these noises. It sounded like somebody just charging through the woods. Turns out it was a squirrel, and all he was doing, I don't know what he's doing, but he was making a lot of noise on the almost dried up ivy that's on the ground. But those things that when you stop and just look at them and look for what's different, your awareness and perspective changes. So when I'm looking at not just next year, but tomorrow, next week, the next project, moving into parts unknown, I think this is a great reminder for me that our vision is often limited by us. We put the limits on there that we don't necessarily want to, but we do. So we have to force ourselves to make some changes. So what's motivating me this week is the desire that when I hit those walls, or I hit that, head scratching moment where I don't know what to do next, then I really think that I'm going to physically get up and move myself. I mean, frankly, I had to move my office around a little bit this week because we had to move around my carpet in my office. And so I've moved my desk several times. I think I'm going to move it again when we get the carpet laid down again, because maybe that will shake things up as well. Just having a difference in vision and perspective may change our ability to not only do great things, but to do them with more ease and less stress. And maybe, just maybe, really tap that creative spark in all of us to use what we see around us in a different way, to use the elements of the world around us, our minds, our business tools, the people we know, the opportunities we have, and see them in a new light. You never know what may come to it. And that's what's motivating me this week. As always, if you like what we're saying and doing, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to comment, hit the like button, definitely. We respond to every comment. And as always, take the time today to shock your potential.